actually feels good to be a Chelsea fan at the moment, and I haven't said that in a long time. It's been a very, very difficult, well, sort of like 18 months, and yeah, I'd probably say like 18 months to 2 years. When did we win the Champions League? Like 2 years ago? It's just been such an up and down time to be a Chelsea fan. I know a lot of people have just got so sick of it, and it's it's pretty much like divided the fan base quite a lot over the last sort of year or so with everything that's gone on, with Burnley taking over, Abramovich leaving, you know, Potter coming in and leaving, and then you obviously had the Potter in and Potter out people, Lampard in for a short spell, and then obviously Pochettino. And yeah, this season's been very up and down. I feel like there was a pretty much since the start of the season, after like the first few games, people pretty much just decided if they liked Pochettino or they didn't. I do feel like as well that he wasn't and never was going to be given like as much patience or an equal amount of patience as like most managers would have got because of his Spurs background, which is understandable. I get it. But at the same time, I think most people were optimistic because they felt, given where we are as a club and are as a team, it was probably the best appointment at the time, probably the best we could have done in terms of like an established manager. And Pochettino, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did at Tottenham. To be honest with you, I mean he took them to a Champions League final. I think people like to brush past that quite a lot, but I think the work he did at Tottenham was really good. And is he one of the world's leading managers? No, but I do think he's a good manager, a solid good manager, and I think he's likable as well. Like, if he didn't have that Spurs background, I do feel like he would have got a lot more patience because he is the type of person that we want as manager. He's quite fiery, he's charismatic, clearly loves his football. So, yeah, it's been an interesting season, but it is so nice, like, coming off the back of this, 5-0 win against West Ham, and the back of, apart from the Arsenal result, some really good results and performances that have been going on for a few weeks now. It does feel like we've like turned that corner, and it feels like things are starting to click. And a lot of people were saying, Pochettino again. I feel like there's people that want to give Pochettino credit, and there's people that don't. And those who don't will do whatever mental gymnastics they need to do to take the praise away from Pochettino. Like, for example, the whole, the argument a lot of us have been making, and what I've been talking about all season is if we actually had a striker or two to put away the chances, we would easily be, top 5, if not top 4. Pochettino's obviously addressed this as well with the XG that he was talking about a few weeks ago, saying we would be 4th. And what a lot of people want to do is they want to say, the form we're hitting now, we should have hit it a lot earlier, which I don't think is fair because, it's a very young team. The whole club has been, in disarray for a while now. It's a very difficult situation. So I just don't think it's fair to say, a different manager would have got them to this point quicker because you don't know that. And, these are very, very young players. These are 19, 20, 21-year-old players. There was always going to be a lag. There's always going to be inconsistency, no matter what manager you had him. So I just don't feel like Pochettino is getting the right praise, the right amount of praise, the fair amount of praise from a lot of our fan base who are still clinging to this like almost agenda of like Pochettino out. But I just don't think that. Yeah, I just don't think it's fair to sort of say what a lot of us are saying, in that he sort of stumbled upon this lineup and forced into it because of injuries. I would argue, he's done very, very well to be doing as well as we are doing now and doing recently with all the injuries. I don't understand the argument of, well, no, because he's had so many injuries and so much bad luck, he sort of stumbled upon this lineup. I don't think that's fair. I don't think you can do that. But it has been interesting. Look, I mean, if you look at the most recent results, I just want to get through this first of all. Some people seem to be thinking we've only played well for like the last 3 games or so. I disagree. I think there's been like clear improvement for a while now, which is why a lot of us want him to stay and do feel like Pochettino deserves more time. And again, this is split 50-50, I would say, especially if you go on places like Reddit and Twitter. But even if you go back like just over a month ago, like, so we beat Man United 4-3. I know it was a very end-to-end game, but we did win. We did beat Man United, and you can't like discard that. We played Sheffield United. It was 2-2. We should have won that game, right? Again, I do think that if we had, a fit in Cuckoo or an actual striker, even if we just had Broya, like, it would have been a different story. But anyway, we drew the game. We should have won. Smashed Everton 6-0. Played Man City, lost 1-0 to arguably the best team in the world, and should have smashed them. Nicholas Jackson should have had a hat-trick. Which, again, and we've played Man City three times this season. We've drawn twice. One of them was a 4-4, scoring 4 against City. I mean, that's an achievement in itself. And we've more than matched them on 3 separate occasions. I don't see how, that alone, you can take that and show that what this team is capable of, what our manager is capable of. Aston Villa, first half wasn't great, obviously, ended up being 2-2, but the second half, I would say on the balance, we actually outplayed Aston Villa, who have been fantastic this season. Emery's a fantastic manager, very tactical, and Pochettino arguably outcoached him, which again, I think these are huge moments that are just being discarded by a lot of people. And it's actually not the bigger games that we struggle in, it's usually the smaller games. And if we can solve that, and I do think that is also a recruitment problem, but if we can solve that, like, we are flying next season. And I think these big games are like something to get excited about. Obviously, Arsenal was horrendous. Like, that's just something that happens. Arsenal are on a turret running. They were one of the best teams in the world, second best team in the Premier League, arguably the first, and they're flying at the moment. 5-0's, it's awful. I'm not going to say it isn't, but again, they're a young team. Like, you got to expect inconsistency. I feel like a lot of people are like so unrealistic with their expectations of this team. They think of it like they're all like mid-20s, like it's like Pete, John Terry, Lampard, that sort of era, and they're not that, at least yet. They're very talented young players who are going to be inconsistent. That's what you get from young players. And when you've got a whole squad full of them as well, like, it's not like we've got a balance of like, some young, some sort of like 26, 27, 28. That's just not the team we have. The Tottenham game was fantastic, like utterly fantastic. This is when I was thinking, oh my God, this is actually starting to click now. Not just in terms of like Pochettino knowing his players, but, everyone's super motivated. Some people have been saying Pochettino can't motivate the players, etc. Like, absolute nonsense. They clearly love playing for him. They clearly want him as a manager. We've seen what it looks like several times over the last decade when players down tools, and at no point have they down tools. I think at times they've been frustrated, and at times they've been complacent, but at no point have they down tools. Pochettino has no problem motivating these players. They definitely want to play for him. But the Tottenham game was, against a really good manager, a really good team, who are above us in the league, and a big occasion as well, obviously being Spurs. We were fantastic. Like, really, really, really good game. Really good performance. And that's when I was like, oh, wow, we might actually push for sixth here. And I was really hoping, like, today could have been, not today, because it's the day after, but the Chelsea-West Ham game, it was a potential banana skin, and it could have, like, derailed our running. Because if we'd have gone out, and drawn or lost to West Ham, everyone would be saying, oh, it's just, like, purple patch, they can get up for the big games, but the smaller games they can't, etc. But we've gone out and blown them away. Absolutely blown them away. And for me, and I know Pochettino covered this in his interview as well, but for me, one of the big parts for me was when Madueke is from goal, could shoot, and perhaps should have shot, and he's laid it off to Jackson for a tap-in. And I think that just says where we're at the moment, especially considering like the bounce back of where we were at what was it? I don't know, a week or two ago when they were fighting over a penalty. It was the Everton game, wasn't it? Yeah, that was it. So I think that sort of says a lot as well about how Pochettino's managed that situation. I know he came out and condemned them, and that could have gone either way, but it just shows that, there is a togetherness in this team. They are maturing because they are young players. I mean, Nicholas Jackson is one of the most senior players, and I think he's 23? He's 22. 23 in June. So, again, I think that sort of says it all, and it just shows the growth in the team. One thing I want to talk about, because the West Ham game was fantastic, and Everyone played brilliantly. Cole Palmer again, such some fantastic buy. Nicholas Jackson got another goal as well, which I'll touch on him in a second. But the one of the big misses we've got at the moment, we've got quite a lot of injuries. Obviously, we have had them all season. Is Enzo Fernandez, and supposedly he's had an injury for 4, 5, 6 months, according to one of his posts. And he's a big miss. He's a fantastic player, especially when he's on form. But a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we're better off without him," and it's an interesting topic because Enzo is a fantastic player. There's no doubt about that. He's highly talented, but Caicedo has really kicked on recently, and I've been one of his biggest critics, and I don't want to get too excited still because if he does turn out to be what we hope he is, we've got a fantastic player on our hands. He was really good against West Ham. I think he got a really good assist as well. But he's been really good for a while, and he's like showing the form that he showed at Brighton, which obviously made us pay that 100 million or whatever we paid. So does Enzo pair well with him? I don't know, but what I do know is we will find a place for Enzo because he's that good. And what's going to be really interesting is when Enzo's back, is Gallagher even going to be here? That is a conundrum, because if he isn't, and it would be a real shame, by the way, like Conor Gallagher, I've always liked Conor Gallagher. I actually used to say, somewhat quietly, when Mason Mount was here, that I actually preferred him to Mason Mount. I felt like he was a better player, and I think there's an argument there now to say he actually has surpassed Mason Mount in terms of being a total footballer. He's a much more complete footballer, but I think Gallagher, he would be, even if we sign a couple players more, I think he could be a very, very good squad player. I would like to see him develop a little bit more in terms of like seeing him as a player that can help us win the title in a couple of years, because that's we're at least 2 years away from doing that. But who knows, he might. But all I can say is like he always stands up to be counted. You always get energy and work rate from Conor Gallagher. He obviously loves the club, and I think that's really important to have in the dressing rooms for people to understand exactly what Chelsea is and what it means to be Chelsea. So it's going to be really interesting, and a lot of us are very fearful that Conor Gallagher will be sold in the summer to balance the books, which would be such a ridiculous situation to be in. Same with Trevor Chalobah as well. Like, he was really good, and I've always really liked Trevor Chalobah. Like, I've always felt like he's really tidy. He just offers something different as a centre back, and we all love academy players coming through and making it, right? So yeah, I don't know. It'll be such a shame to see Conor Gallagher go. I have no doubts that Enzo Fernandez has a future at Chelsea. A lot of people talk about selling him already, which I think would be madness. I think he's been somewhat of a victim in terms of how he plays with the form of the team and how the team's gelled. But I think Enzo Fernandez is one of those footballers that you can sort of play him anywhere, and he would play really well in like a fully functioning team. Chelsea is a bit of an anomaly. Caicedo's struggled a lot at times in this team. But I do feel like in a well-oiled team, in terms of the performances we're putting in recently, in terms of the chemistry of the team, with the performances against Tottenham, against West Ham, etc., I feel like he would thrive. I just don't know where he would sort of fit in if Gallagher was to stay, because Gallagher next to Caicedo, they complement each other so well. And Enzo and Caicedo, it almost feels like they're trying to prove a point individually, and they don't really work well in tandem. But yeah, I think getting rid of Enzo would be absolute madness, because he's clearly a very, very quality player. I see no reason why he can't play as a number 10, to be honest with you. He's got a good shot on him. I think he's got a very well-rounded game. I suppose the only thing you could say is I don't think he's the quickest, which is probably one of the things that when we're up against a pacey team or a powerful midfield, you can breeze past Enzo a little bit. But, he's not slow by any means, So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It'd be very disappointing if Conor Gallagher leaves, but it does look like he might. And I'm just a bit scared of who he's going to go to. If he goes to Tottenham, I mean, I can't imagine him wanting to go to Tottenham, but he might not even have a choice. I can't imagine being a proper Chelsea fan and having to play for Tottenham. But, Postecoglou, his style of football suits him very well. It'd just be such a shame to see Conor Gallagher leave and then like become a very good player elsewhere, especially for like someone like Tottenham. But yeah, Nicholas Jackson. I did a podcast at the start of the season with someone, and we only did a few episodes, but we talked quite a lot about Nicholas Jackson, and we really like the look of him. I really like the look of him. He looked like a really well-rounded player. You know, as the season's gone on, I don't think he's a striker. I think he can play there, but I just, I think he has tendency. I think he could be a very, very good like inside forward. And saying all this, he is only 22, so he's got plenty of time to develop. Like in 2-3 years, he could be one of the world's leading strikers. Who knows? But for me, I feel like he would be one of those players that's like primarily plays out on the wing or like as a left forward, but doesn't like lead the line, and then can fill in as a striker as and when needed. I think he'd be a very, very good like third choice striker who primarily plays like left forward, because he has played there as well and he played very well. But I do fear that he's going for a little bit of a purple patch at the moment and he's going to drop off. I'm just not 100% sold on him being a striker, at least right now. What I would say is like, I really like Nicholas Jackson. I've liked him since the start of the season. However, I don't think he's near where we need him to be in terms of a striker if he's going to play there. Because personally, I wouldn't mind like Raheem Sterling leaving and Nicholas Jackson taking his place on the wing. That's where I see what's going to happen, or would like to see what's happening. Going to happen. Sorry, struggling to speak at the moment, but I don't feel confident going into next season with him being our number one striker. I think we really need a proper number 9. I think he's quite erratic. His finish against West Ham was really good. He's been playing well recently. And, stat-wise, like, he's got 16 in 41 games, all competitions, but he's got 13 in 32 Premier League games, which, considering the context, I think is pretty good. Obviously, he scored, 3 against Spurs, I think, earlier in the season. But, I don't know, I'm just not... Because he's got, like... The interesting stat, right, is... I read it yesterday on Twitter. He's got more non-penalty goals than Mo Salah and Cole Palmer, which is good, but I just feel like, I just feel like he's too erratic, to be honest with you. I don't feel comfortable at all going into next season with him as our striker, and the thing is, right, like, he could have 20 goals in the Premier League. And he should have 20 goals in the Premier League. He's missed so many chances. I mean, he could have had, a hat-trick against Man City as well. There's been so many times like that. So you can look at it in two ways. You can look at it as like, he isn't good enough to play striker, he's too wasteful, or he's got the mass potential to be that, that type of striker. If he just sorts his finishing out, we saw it with Daniel Sturridge in his early days at Chelsea, and, obviously he went on to Liverpool and became fantastic. You speak to any Liverpool fans about Darwin Núñez, same sort of situation. If he just puts away 20% more of his chances, we've got a really good player on our hands. So it could swing either way. It will be very interesting, but I think either way, he's a really good purchase. Even if he ends up being like a squad player, for the money we paid, it was like 35 mil or something, 30 mil, 35 mil. He's an absolute bargain for what he is, and he seems to be just getting better. I think Pochettino's doing a really good job for him. Again, I don't think Pochettino gets the credit he deserves for like coaching these players, improving these players. He doesn't get any credit for Cole Palmer. Everyone just says, that's what Pep did. I don't think that's fair. And, he's improving Nicholas Jackson. Madueke has come on leaps and bounds as well. He's doing fantastically recently. So, yeah, it's either way, it's really great to see, like, in this run-in, like, Nicholas Jackson picking up some form, getting some confidence in front of goal. I think his finish against West Ham at the near post was really good. And, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But my gut feeling is we definitely shouldn't be relying on him next season as our leading striker. I think it's too much of a risk. Will we get 6th? I'm not sure, but it would be great. like if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, Christopher and Cuckoo's gonna be injured most of the season, we're gonna have X amount of injuries, would you take sixth? I probably would have. And if we had this late push and get sixth, for me it's like if we got sixth, I'd be like, that's great, but we also could have like finished way higher if we had a striker. If we'd have won the games we should have won. For me, you can look at it either way. You can look at it as like bottling it, which a lot of people are doing, or you can look at it as like this is the potential of the team. This is the potential of like this young team that once they mature, Pochettino puts more of a stamp on it, etc. This is where we could be next year. And we play some really good football as well, by the way. Like, again, a lot of people say, I don't understand it at all, to be honest with you, because statistically we're miles better than Potter anyway. But under Potter's season, people say, I don't see any improvement. And I'm just like, what games are you watching? There's clear improvement on Graham Potter's team. With a worse team, by the way. With a much younger, worse team with injury problems. So I think to compare them, it's just like, Pochettino is doing a far better job than Graham Potter. And I can actually see potential with Graham Potter. At no point did I ever feel like he was the right man for the job. Didn't want him in the first place. Was very happy he left. I felt like we should have fired him months before. I think Pochettino. I'm really hopeful that Pochettino is going to get time. I hope he gets at least, this sounds ridiculous, but at least until Christmas, at least until January. I hope we give him that, because what a shame it will be if we do let him go, because there's rumours going around that apparently they need top six. If they don't, they're going to get rid of him. But it'll be so annoying because a lot of the Poch out people are now starting to say, maybe he deserves a bit more time. We're starting to see evidence of that this squad's bedding in, and yes, we appreciate he's got injuries. We appreciate arguably our best player in Cuckoo has been out all season, etc., etc., etc. So even the most diehard Pochettino out people are saying, oh, maybe we should give him the summer, give him up until January, see how we're getting on, and then replace him. It'd be so typical of the new ownership to make the wrong decision and get rid of Pochettino when we're all starting to feel quite hopeful, when the players seem to actually enjoy playing for him, we can see a style of play, we can see patterns of play, we can see the drive, the hunger, and we're hitting good form and beating really good teams, by the way. We beat Tottenham, we outplayed Man City, we smashed Everton 6-0, we beat Man United, we outplayed Villa in the second half and on the balance should have won it. These are really good teams. And it for me, it's it would just be it would be such a shame if we were to get rid of him. So I feel like if you look at the fixtures, I think it's going to be close. It is tricky because we have got away games, but I think we'll scrape it. Man United are playing tonight. They're playing Palace away. And I think they've still got I think they've got Man United. I think they've got Arsenal at home as one of their last games. Yeah, so on the 12th, on Sunday, they've got Arsenal, and then they've got Newcastle. So if you look at that and compare it to ours, well, we've got Brighton and Nottingham Forest away games, then we've got Bournemouth as well at home. I don't know, it's going to be close. If we take the confidence we've built recently, I really hope we do, because I hope this has been a massive confidence boost for the team, and that's sort of all we needed to sort of get over that final line. I mean, it'll be brilliant if we get sixth. What a good timing to hit good form, right? So, I don't know. We'll find out soon anyway.